In 10.2, we're talking about something called histograms, and one thing you'll notice when we start working on histograms is that they are a special type of bar graph, and this particular type of bar graph shows the frequency of data values in equal intervals. So we've done frequency tables. It's going to be kind of similar to grouping things in frequency tables, but we're going to do bar graph style. And the height of a bar in a histogram is going to represent the frequency of the values in that group. And again, as we get going here, you'll see what that looks like. For example 1, we're going to start by making a histogram, and the frequency table that they give us right here shows the numbers of laps that people in a swimming class completed today, and they want us to display the data in a histogram. As you get ready to make your histogram, you may decide if you would like to use graph paper or if you're okay just doing it on your line paper. I think to some degree you'll find this is actually easier to do on the line paper because it helps to line the bars up, but give it a try. You decide what works best for you. As we start to create this histogram, the first step is to draw and label the axes. And again, I'm just kind of doing it freehand. You can do that on your line paper or on graph paper. And we of course need to remember to have a title. So this histogram is all about number of laps completed in a swimming class. And then one thing we're going to be graphing is the number of laps that people did, and the other thing will be the frequency of the number of swimmers that completed those laps. And the other thing we're going to have to add on here are the actual intervals here and what we're going to be graphing. So looking at this frequency table here, we can see that we're going to be going in groups of 3. So we're going to go from 1 to 3, which will add in just writing across the bottom, the first group of frequencies will be 1 to 3. Then next to that, we'll space it out just a little bit. And the next group was 4 to 6. Then we had 7 to 9, 10 to 12. And you can see I'm going to squeeze, but it's going to be 13 to 15 over here. And I squeezed all of those across there, and so hopefully you leave yourself a little bit more room than I did. And then the next thing we have to do is go up the y-axis here and determine our frequency. Now this time we're going to have to set the range, and just like every other graphing activity we've done this year, we're going to have to count by equal intervals. So we can see the lowest number that we have here is 0, and the highest number is 11. So we're going to count by whatever number or whatever group we think makes the most sense. I'm going to go ahead and count by 2s. So we'll start at 0 kind of in this bottom corner and then go up by 2s. And again, leave yourself more space than I'm leaving myself here. But we've got to get at least to 12 because 11 is the lowest, or excuse me, the highest on our list. And before you write step 2, I did sneak this little reminder in here. Remember titles and equal intervals as part of step 1, all the things we just talked about here. But for step 2, we just need to draw a bar to represent the frequency of each interval. So for instance, when we look up at the frequency table, 11 people during the swimming class did 1 to 3 laps or somewhere in that range. So we're going to draw that bar between the 12 and the 10, and I used a little bit of a thicker kind of piece to this one right now. You don't have to do it that thick, but you can kind of color it in and just let it go. And at this point you'll start to see why it would be really helpful if you were using the line paper, because it's a little hard to see exactly where things are showing up, but this is between 10 and 12. And then for our next frequency, it is for 4 to 6 laps during the swimming class, 4 people completed that many laps. So in a histogram, the bars should be touching. There should be no space in between the bars. And then we have to go to the 4 again and make sure you're kind of lined up with everything. And then from that 4, we draw the next bar. And that interval is for 4 to 6 laps during the swimming class. And then the next interval you'll see actually nobody swam just between 7 and 9 laps, so we leave it blank there, but it does need to be included because we do need to have equal intervals across the bottom there. So then the next one we look at is how many people were swimming 10 to 12 laps during the class, and it looks like that was 3 people. So again, we're going to go between the 2 and the 4. We're going to try, especially on this one since I'm not using line paper, to make it less than this one where there was 4 people. And so we're going to put that bar in there, Again, there's a space this time only because nobody in that swim class was swimming between 7 and 9 laps. So that's the only reason we have a gap here. And then the final one is who swam 13 to 15 laps, or how many people, I should say, swam 13 to 15 laps, and that was 6 people. So we'll go across from the 6, and we will again touch the bar right next to us, and we will make that final bar for 13 to 15 laps. So this is another look, and you do not have to copy this one down. This is actually the exact same histogram that I just drew, but you can see this one from the book is a little bit more organized, just because it is showing the work on the lined paper, and I didn't have that on my blank screen. So this is ultimately what your histogram should look like, and as you're using lined paper, it'll be even easier for you to organize that. In example 2, we're going to be just using or interpreting a histogram, and this particular histogram shows the winning speeds at the Daytona 500, and they've got a couple of questions that we're going to answer. So the first one is, which interval contains the most data values? The second one is, how many of the winning speeds are less than 140 miles per hour? And the third question is, how many of the winning speeds are at least 160 miles per hour? And for question A, where we're trying to determine which interval contains the most data values, you're literally just going to look for the tallest bar, because this one is the one that happened the most, or had the most frequency or frequent number of data values. So in this case, it was the 150 to 159 miles per hour that had the most number of winners in that particular range. All right, and question B asked how many of the winning speeds are less than 140 miles per hour. So again, we're going to take a look over here, and we're looking at anything less than 140 miles per hour, and there are 2 intervals that meet that. And the first one is really easy to see because it falls right at that line of 4, and it says that so 4 different people won with speeds between 130 and 139 miles per hour. And then the one next to it is a little bit tougher to tell, but you can kind of see here that the groupings are going up in 4s, and that this is kind of a fourth or a quarter of the way through. So that is one winner in that particular range of 120 to 129 miles per hour. So there would be a total of 5 winners that had that won with speeds less than 140 miles per hour. Letter C asks us how many of the winning speeds are at least 160 miles per hour. And so again, we're going to look at the histogram. We're going to look all the way across, and at least 160 is going to include this set of intervals and this set of intervals. So now we just have to look and see how many times each of those speeds occurred as winning speeds. So 160 to 169, you can see it's less than the 8 line right there, but it's not much less, so it's probably about 1 under the 8, which means that 7 winners were between 160 and 169 miles per hour. And then the next one, 170 to 179, is just a little bit over this blue line. And again, for this one, you're going to have to be careful. You're going to have to maybe even possibly consider getting a straight edge to see, because if you were to run it all the way across there, you would see it's just a little bit over the line where the 4 is. So that's actually 5 people that won in that interval of 170 to 179. So altogether, that would mean 12 winning speeds are at least 160 miles per hour.